Good morning and welcome to Coffee Time with Kauffman, the comfortable place to talk about women's leadership. Today I am here with Payge Winfield as we discuss how to consume ideas for a prosperous future. Hey Payge.
Hello.
Payge is an ISC squared associate working at Microsoft as a security engineer. She graduated from Ohio State University.
Ohio University.
Sorry, thank
Not
you.
quite state yet.
Ohio University with a Bachelor of Science in Communication, majoring in Information Telecommunication Systems, and double minoring in Business and Computer Science. She is currently pursuing a master's degree in cybersecurity at NYU. Payge has quite a few hobbies, but her favorite hobbies are playing the piano, playing video games, and painting. But before we get into how to consume ideas for a prosperous future with Payge, my name is Maria Kauffman, and I'm a life coach. And today, I had the pleasure of drinking a Starbucks triple venti white chocolate mocha. What are you drinking, Payge?
A chai tea latte with soy almond milk.
Awesome. Payge, so nice to have you here on the show. Tell us about some of your early signs of genius, maybe back in elementary school. How were you navigating your way that might have indicated that you were going to take a career path in cybersecurity?
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on the show. Excited to be here. So in early childhood, I was very strong in math. I was also strong in reading, but math is where my grandmother knew or saw that I really shined. And so, while everyone in kindergarten was doing like 1 + 1 = 2, I was doing triple digit numbers and learning how to multiply. And I remember, I think it was around the 4th grade, we were learning fractions. I'm like, this is entirely too easy. And so over the summer, my grandmother brought out her pre-algebra college textbook, and we sat down and started doing college pre-algebra. And so by the 5th grade, I was able to multiply polynomials, and I was really I would take the book and I was just running with it.
Wow, that's really running with it.
Yeah, and my grandmother used to, be very impressed. She'd say, "Hey, what are you learning today?" And I point out what I'm learning in the book, and I'll show her my math problems that I've been doing, and she'd give me feedback and help me along. And my mother was the same way. And so throughout my pre-K education and middle school education, I was always advanced in math or taking some type of advanced math classes. And I also really shined in science. I remember in the 8th grade, we had to give a presentation of something of our choice. So I chose black holes in stars. And I remember it was supposed to be like a 5-10 minute presentation. I took up the whole entire 50-minute class time, and I had like examples, and I had volunteers. I had the students come up and I had the students volunteer. And I remember my science teacher saying, "You're going to be some type of scientist." And here I am, a security engineer. So
Oh, nice. Well, it's nice to get that feedback, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
So you're kind of doing your thing. Nice support from mom and grandma.
Oh, yes. And my great great uncle was a huge influence on me as well. He used to always take me to the botanical garden, the art museum, history museum, but my favorite was the science museum. And I remember, again, in kindergarten or in the 1st grade at the science museum in Cleveland, they have an electrical board that, the purpose is to put the wires into the connector slots, and the objective is to, when you flip a switch, whether it rings a bell or turn on a light bulb. And I remember doing this by myself, and he's like observing in the background, just watching. And I was so excited that I was able to get the light bulb to flip when I hit the switch. And from that moment on, I was like, yeah, I like tinkering with things. This is my niche, my niche.
Yeah, right. Awesome. So pretty cool. So you're kind of noticing this. You have such a positive energy and just kind of really effervescent,
Thank you.
So, and it sounds like too, that even back in those early years, you may have been noticing that you're a little bit different than maybe most of your classmates. What was that like for you?
It was interesting. So in school, I got I don't want to say special attention from the teachers. Unfortunately, in the school system that I was in, they didn't necessarily put me in advanced class, but the teachers recognized it, so they gave me additional, I guess, responsibilities in the classroom. So I ended up being like a pseudo teacher. I'd help grade the papers. I'd stay after class. I started tutoring other kids. But it was always nice. I enjoyed being that person that the other students knew they can come to for help, because I like to help people. So it was always really nice. Yeah, and teachers loved it, because then I could just walk around the class and help them help other students as they're helping other students as well. So
Right. It was kind of more of like a community. You're pretty young and you're actually building, what we know is leadership skills. And maybe you didn't even know it. It was kind of a natural thing for you. And it's nice to have at least a classroom and teachers that can facilitate that kind of, I guess, dynamic in that community. So that's pretty cool. So, you have some interesting hobbies too. Were those things that were also growing when you were younger? What was like outside of class like for you early in life?
yeah, so in the beginning, I read a lot. It's always so funny. My dad would take me to the library, and I would have like a stack of books so big that I can barely carry them. You like can't see my head. I can like barely look over them. And he would always say, "You're not going to read all those books, Paige." And I'm like, "Yes, I will." And every time within 2 weeks, I have read this big stack of books, 2 to 3 weeks, well before we had to return them. And he's like, "You didn't read all those books." And I could tell him, "Yeah, this book's about this and this book's about that." And so my parents found out that I loved reading. They started having me read financial books. And so
Oh,
in high school, middle school, I started reading a little bit of finance books, but mostly fantasy. They didn't push too much on me. They said, "Hey, if you're going to read this big stack of books that are all fictional, you have to read at least one or two that aren't fictional." Well, which was nice, because that also later down the line helped me with my business minor. So,
yeah. It was
but yeah,
interesting to see how that a lot of times that these are kind of like building blocks and they kind of happen naturally, but it sounds like you're just enjoying everything.
yes.
Awesome. Cool. So those were early years. What was in more elementary, high
Mhm.
school? What was high school like?
So in high school, I was in honors and AP classes. And at some or my school had a vocational program. So during this vocational program, you could either you can be a mechanic or take courses on cosmetology, culinary, computer science. And they had one called Cisco, which was the one I ended up enrolling in. And this is a 2-year commitment. So for 4 periods out of the 7-period day, you're in this vocational class where you're learning these more hands-on skills. And so for me, it was the Cisco Networking Academy, which later translated into me doing the Information Telecommunication Systems major at Ohio University. And so also I did have fun. So I did, besides like the honors and AP classes and the vocational program, I did do show choir, which is how I learned how to play the piano. So I did show choir, I did theater, I did robotics club. I was the president of Key Club, which is a volunteer organization for high schools with partnership with Kiwanis, which is the national level. What else did I do? I was in like an honor society. I was in a lot of different things. But yeah, that all played a factor into me developing some hobbies as well as furthering my knowledge in the tech space. Because I know computer science and engineering and tech was even a thing. I just knew what I liked to do. And after his name's Mr. Pignatellis, we call him Mr. P. After Mr. P convinced me to join the Cisco Networking Academy, I realized, oh wow, there's this whole other world that I had no idea existed, because everyone in my family was in healthcare. So I'm like, there's this whole other world that I didn't know existed. And that's kind of how I got into tech.
Wow. It sounds very, I want to say, like you had a full schedule and you were seeking out a lot of different, just experiences and
Mhm.
clubs and interests. Was it at any point like overwhelming? Was there parts where you had to make a decision like, oh, I have to do this? I just don't have enough time in the day to do everything. What was that like?
Yeah. So senior year is when I don't know what I was thinking. So again, we have 7 periods, 6 periods for class and 1 for lunch. And I had 8 periods worth of class. On top of being in show choir, on top of being in theater, on top of working. I worked at Chick-fil-A at this time. And so it was my teacher, my advisors kept saying, you might want to slow down, because I was in AP Calc, I was in AP English, I was in all these honors classes, the vocational program, show choir, all these things. I was in Spanish level 4, so I was doing all of these things, and everyone was like, you need to like slow down, but I didn't. I did it. I was definitely very stressed, but
Oh.
I was able to kind of make it through. I just adjusted in other ways.
Interesting. So at that point in time, I know we're talking about consuming ideas. Did you have especially when your one of your teachers was kind of opening you up to a whole new world, right? It's almost like you didn't even know ideas were out there like that, but all of a sudden, like this big door opened. Yeah, what can you say about consuming ideas? Because that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, so my uncle used to always tell me to have an open mind. And so when it came to consuming all of these ideas, my main trait, or just something that I value, is being open to these different ideas. And so to be honest, when I was being convinced to join the Cisco Networking Academy, I had also signed up for culinary. I was going to do culinary instead. And I was like, "Oh, I like to cook. This is something I might want to do." But Mr. P and I had a conversation, and I was open to the idea of it. And so if I wasn't open to the idea of tech, or if I wasn't open to the idea of being in show choir, for example, which I found out I loved and that helped me learn to play the piano, if I wasn't open to these things, I wouldn't have had these great experiences that I feel like significantly impacted my life in a positive way.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I know too, you and I have talked before, and on your LinkedIn profile, you talk about just being not only open and curious yourself, but it's something that you kind of seek out in the work opportunities that you make. And I think that curiosity piece is almost like a necessary ingredient, if you will, for being
Yes.
able to consume ideas.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Cool. It's almost like you're like a magnet. So then help us, so you're in high school, you got this awesome opportunity to explore. You have a dynamic range of interests and skills that you're building. What was it like for you to decide where to go to college and what to study?
Yeah, so I contribute that to Mr. P as well. Mr. P was very influential. So the Cisco Networking Academy at my school, I kind of think of it as a pipeline, because a lot of the students that did that program ended up going to Ohio University, because Ohio University had or it still has, a really good ITS program. And so when I was considering colleges, which is so funny, a lot of things in my life happen haphazardly. But when I was considering college, I was sitting in the guidance counselor's office, and I remember she's like, "Okay, where are you thinking for college?" I'm like, "I have no idea." And she's like, "Okay, well, what are you interested in?" I'm like, I really enjoy the Cisco thing that I'm doing, but I'm still very interested in culinary, and I'm interested in psychology too. And she's like, "Okay, hold on, you're all over the place. She's like, since you're already going down this path, maybe you should look at schools that are that will leverage this, or that will help you grow in this way." And I remember talking to Mr. P and telling him, like, "Yeah, I might go for psychology." He's like, "Hold on, wait a second, Paige. You're doing great in the class. You're one of the top students in this class. I think you should look at Ohio University." I did. I went and visited the campus. It's a beautiful campus. Even though it's in the middle of nowhere, it's a beautiful campus, and I really liked the staff and the people that I interacted with, and so I decided to just kind of go there.
So you decided on the university. Did you also decide on the education as well? Like
Yeah, the major.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay, the major.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I decided I'm already going down this path. Might as well, keep going down this trajectory. And I can always pivot, after a couple years if I decide, hey, I don't like this anymore. I can always pivot and do something else. And so I said, I'm just going to go with the flow, continue what I'm doing, and then pivot if I feel like it's necessary.
Awesome. So then what was college like for you?
Oh man. Wow, college I had a lot of experiences. It was my first time being away from home. Even though I'm from Ohio and I was in Ohio, it's 3.5 hours south from where I live. And so the whole process of transitioning from high school life to college life was challenging, but really enjoyed my classes. I ended up taking, me being the person I am, I ended up taking, I think on average, 19 to 20 credit hours per semester. Yeah.
Really? On
Yep.
average?
On average. Yeah.
Page. Oh
I
my
know.
gosh.
And my advisor kept telling me, slow down. Everyone tells me to slow
Slow
down. I'm like,
down.
no, I'm going full force. But in the process of all of that, that's how I got into um, the business minor. I
Uh-huh.
Part of my class or part of my curriculum for the major was to take business law. Ended up liking it, so I took some additional business classes. Part of my major was to also take one programming class. So I took we had computer science, so we had C part A and C plus plus part A and C plus plus part B. So it was a two-part class. So I took the part A part, which is the first class, liked it, and I was like, I'm going to be a computer science minor. So then I dual minored, and I was actually going to get a third one. I had started taking economic courses, but my advisor was like, you're never going to graduate if you keep adding minors. I had like a leadership certificate I was pursuing. I had taken a whole bunch of like ice skating and other like physical, like volleyball activities. So I was all over the place taking all these different classes because like this interests me. So I don't mind taking the extra credit hour for something that interests me. But my professor, who's also my advisor, was like, "Yeah, you need to relax. You're going to be in school forever if you keep attacking on degrees and certificates."
Oh my gosh.
And here
Talk
I am
about
in master's, so I'm still in school.
right. Talk about consuming ideas. You're just consuming. That's fabulous. Interesting. So during the time, you talked about hobbies, piano, video
Mhm.
games, and painting. What was college? When did you start to explore any or all of those interests?
Yeah, so I started piano in high school, but continued through college. So I brought my keyboard to college with me and was playing for a while. I've always enjoyed gaming. My dad got me into gaming when I was like 6 years old. We would play like, what did we play? We played Madden and all these other stuff, all these other like sport games. But then down the line, I really got into all different types of games and then PC console games. And I still play games now. Not as much because the master's program, as well as my new role, is taxing, as in like there's a lot to do, but I still like to play video games. And then painting was a newer hobby. I started that probably my junior year of college during one of my internships. We went to a girl and I went to a paint and sip, and it was my first time painting. And everyone was like, "Oh, that painting looks really nice." And then I just kept going. And so usually a lot of the things is maybe someone inviting me somewhere that I'm open to the idea of doing it, or me seeing something on TV. I'm like, "Oh, that looks interesting. I want to try that." And that's kind of how I pick up all these hobbies. Yeah, my paintings.
Cool. There
Yeah.
they
So
are.
if you were to go to my house, every room has at least one painting that I've painted, and I have a room that's like I have like some paintings that are just in a corner stacked up that I haven't hung up. But like, yeah, I love painting.
Tell us
It's
a little
a
bit
nice
about
outlet.
these. Yeah.
Yeah, so the one with the little plants, those are all succulent plants. That's the most recent one. I went to a paint and sip with a coworker here at Microsoft, and we just had a great time. And I was like, "Oh, this is nice." The one in the middle, I was actually in Virginia when I painted that, and I was with a friend, and we went and did a paint and sip. So these are all paint and sips. And then
I
the
love it.
last one, wow, no, I lied. The middle one I did in Seattle. The last one is the one in Virginia. I feel like
Awesome.
I'm getting these mixed up. I don't know which one is which anymore, but
They're
these were
all
all from this
beautiful.
year.
I
Thank
love it.
you.
Thanks for sharing. That's
Thanks.
awesome. So I mean, amazing what you can do with your time and your interests, especially it sounds like you love everything. And when you love these things, filling up your schedule and somehow squeezing them in, you make it sound like it's, I'll say, say easy, although there's obviously people obviously too telling you to slow down.
Yeah.
Any regrets, along the way? Is there anything you felt that you missed that you would have done differently?
I wish I got that economics minor.
Really?
Only
That's
because I only had 2 more classes to take. I should have just tacked on the 2 classes and maybe did just a half some, did an extra semester or did it over the summer.
aw.
But that's probably it. I guess I don't necessarily, it's not like a strong regret,
Yeah.
right? I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, I wish I kind of went through with that. But I was definitely overwhelmed my senior year. So it was very
Oh,
good advice from my professor to
aw.
take us to slow down. Cause again, I was taking 19 credit hours per
Yeah.
semester that year.
Yeah.
And I took 19 credit hours during the summer for an accelerated course, which definite no. Do not ever do that. And I was working part time at Rockwell Automation at that time too. Don't ever do that. So he was very right in not taking on those extra classes because I would have tried to fit them in over the summer or during the spring and would have taken like 23 credit hours. So he was very right in his suggestion.
Oh, sometimes you just can't help yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I can always
Yeah.
read economic books now. So I do have some books back at my house, economic books, Geography of Jobs. Oh, an amazing book. I really like that one, as well as some strategic marketing books. And so I do read that type of material, but I don't know. It would have been nice to just have like, oh yeah, I tripled minored.
Very cool. Good for you. So with all of that, what was it? Well, it sounds like too, you had some working experience with Rockwell.
Mhm.
What was it like as you were getting through that very, very busy senior year and starting to think about a career?
Yeah, so I had been working at Rockwell since my senior year of high school. And so I was
Oh,
interning with them every summer from my senior year all the way to me graduating college. So in the process of that, I kind of already knew where I was going to land, that I was going to land at Rockwell for my first job. Of course, I applied to other places, but I had already had a community at Rockwell. I had already had a great network. Um, I knew a lot of the interns, and my mentor was there. So to me, it just felt like a natural choice to go from graduating school or, graduating college to transitioning into Rockwell Automation as my full-time employment, which I ended up doing their leadership development program. And
mm,
so in that program, I was just rotating throughout the architecture and software business. Every 6 months was a new role. So to learn these new things. And so while it was very hectic, my manager as well as my peers during the summer, which was my last summer at OU, during the summer understood that I was in school doing like 19 credit hours. And so they were pretty lenient about my work hours and very flexible in that way because they knew I was finishing up my last semester at school. So even though it
awesome.
was hectic, I had support.
That's pretty cool. And that must provide some level of comfort, I
Oh
would
yeah.
imagine. You kind of knew, did you know each summer that you would be going back to Rockwell, or was that a
Mhm.
whole application okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. It does give you some comfort. Then you kind of know you have someplace to go. Take us then from there, from Rockwell to where you are now.
Yeah. So this is a funny story. I mentioned that my life, some of these events happen like haphazardly. I end up in these different roles. And so um, I went to Afrotech and I went there strictly for the entrepreneurship and leadership sessions and a few of the tech sessions. And so I didn't bring an application, I didn't bring a resume, or I didn't bring any of that because I was there for one purpose, and that was to learn from the people who were speaking and to network a little bit, to meet other people in tech. In the process of that, I remember I walked up to the Microsoft booth because they were giving out Xboxes, and I was like, I want this Xbox. And it was a raffle. So I go up, I put my information in the kiosk. And as I'm walking away, because I can be an awkward person sometimes, I made awkward eye contact with someone. And she's like, oh, what brings you to the Microsoft booth? And I'm like, I want this Xbox. And so I was entering into the raffle. And she's like, okay, well, what brings you to Afrotech? I'm like, oh, I'm not looking for a job or anything. I'm here to strictly learn about this entrepreneurship stuff and leadership. So I'm here to like network. Because at the time I was thinking about a startup. I had an idea and I was trying to gain some of the skills that I knew that I needed. in order to work towards that goal or that idea. And so that's hence the entrepreneurship and leadership sessions. And so I was telling her, yeah, I have this startup idea in the political space, and I just really just wanted to learn. I came here to learn and to network. And she's like, okay, well, where do you work now? And I told her I'm at Rockwell Automation. I'm in this innovation ERG, employee resource group, where we're trying to change the culture at Rockwell. And these are the things that I'm doing. At the time, I was in leadership development program, and I had done a lot of firmware testing or regression testing. And I was just telling her about my experience. And we're really having a great conversation. We exchanged LinkedIn information. She asked if we can, keep in contact. And I said, yes. I leave and I go home back to Ohio, tell my friend about it. Had no idea this was the general manager of mixed reality at Microsoft, a few levels below the VP, and so had no idea. And
wow.
I'm like, oh well, we were just hitting it off. We were just chatting, nothing big. So then she asked for my resume or my resume, and I'm like, oh, that's a little odd, but I'll give it to her, whatever. She asked if she can share. And I'm like, yeah, you can share. That's totally fine. She's like, hey, one of my managers would like to talk to you. At this point, still not clicking what's going on. And so I'm on the call. I'm thinking this, we're just chatting. Her name's Kim. Me and Kim are chatting. And we get off the phone. I tell my friend who works at Microsoft, by the way, I tell him about my experience. And he's like, Paige, that was a phone interview. And I'm like, no. They didn't say it was a phone interview. She said she just wanted to chat. Long story short, they flew me out to Seattle a couple weeks later. And here I am at Microsoft now.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So literally you're like, on some level, you're consuming ideas even whenever you don't know you're consuming ideas.
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I'm like, I thought I was just having like a really nice chat conversation, making some connections. At no point did I even think that they would be offering me a job, because I'm like, oh, I didn't go to like an Ivy League school. So I was thinking, because that's what I associate with like the big tech, which is totally not true, by the way, for everyone watching. So that was an incorrect assumption that I had. And so, but also that probably made the experience more genuine because I didn't have that expectation. So
that's what I was going to comment on. I mean, talk about authentic. I mean, it doesn't get any more authentic than that. Did you seriously say I'm not looking for a job?
Yes, I did. I said, I'm not looking for it. And I said it like kind of panicked. I'm like, I'm not looking for a job. And she's like, okay.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. So you get to Microsoft, like in that process, or at any point earlier, did you have some idea or a sense of what the dream career was going to be for you? Or are you kind of taking one step at a time? You kind of talked about a little bit haphazardly. Do you know what your heart's desire is? And are you already on that path? What can you share with us there?
Yeah, so I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do or what the dream career looked like. The only thing that I knew is that I liked helping people. I knew that I liked learning new things. I knew that I wanted to be a leader of some sort at some point in time, but that was about it. And I'm creative. I knew that I like to create things. I like play the piano. I paint. I like to create. I write. I do all these other creative things. And so me knowing this, I still didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to do something that helped people, that I can continuously learn, where I can grow, where I can lead, and where I can be creative. And oddly enough, that all fits with cybersecurity. And so that is why I'm taking this master program, because I feel like that fits, because in cybersecurity, you're helping protect people to some degree. Knock on wood, hopefully you don't have too many hackers hacking into your stuff, but that's the goal, is to protect data. You're doing it. My role is more so right now towards security and privacy reviews, as well as penetration testing. And so, you think of creative ways to break into a system, as well as creative ways to protect the system. You're always learning. And at some point, I would love to be a leader in the cybersecurity space. And so, yeah, it kind of all fits in.
Awesome. That's so cool. So with your role now, so you go from Ohio out to California?
Oh, Seattle. Sorry.
Seattle, sorry. So to Seattle. So that's a little bit of a change geographically. And now you're in the master's program for NYU.
Yes.
That is rather, you know, I'll say, I mean, you kind of span the whole country. It sounds rather dynamic. What is that like for you?
Yeah, so the masters, well, switching all of these locations, switching from Ohio to Seattle was a big jump. I drove the whole way. So I drove, well, not the well, someone was with me driving, but I drove from Ohio to Seattle, which was very interesting being able to see different parts of the country. But Seattle is a little bit different. It's a different culture than it is in Ohio, which each state has their own culture, and each city sometimes even has its own culture. I like it out here, minus the gray and the rain. I like it out here. It's beautiful. There's a lot of beautiful people, and by beautiful people, I mean like beautiful spirited people. There's a lot of different activities. Like there's a lot of nature. There like hikes and things that you can do. There's a lot of things that you can do if you're more in the party life. If you want to live in the city, if you want to live a more quiet life, like there's a lot. It spans a lot of my interest.
It sounds
Right
perfect
now,
for you. Just knowing what the little bit that we know, you're very,
minus
very
the
dynamic.
gray.
Yeah, minus the gray. Because I love the pink shirt.
Oh, thank you. And then also, so I'm doing an online program for NYU. So I'm still in Seattle currently.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit different. I like the online is asynchronous. There's very few parts of the course that are synchronous. We have like a few assignments that might have hard deadlines, but for the majority of the class, it's the ultimate deadline is the end of the semester. They understand that we're working professionals. I'm in a fellowships program. So I'm in their fellowship program. Which is awesome because that means you get a scholarship, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
But so far, I'm liking the transition. I like learning. I've always liked school, and so going back to school to get a master's degree just felt natural. So
Awesome, pretty cool. So I know you do or you've had some opportunities to speak.
yes,
Is that something that you wanted to pursue, or did those opportunities kind of come to you?
they came to me, and so I spoke at Microsoft Ignite. I think it was 2020 or 2021. I forget the actual date, but I spoke at Microsoft Ignite to talk about mixed reality because at that time I was a solution architect helping customers deploy mixed reality technology. And so up until that point, before speaking at Ignite, I did a few presentations where we got on this Teams live. There was a whole bunch of people in industry that joined who just wanted to learn about mixed reality. And so I helped create a blog and had this great opportunity to present to all of these professionals about mixed reality technology, how to deploy it, and answer their questions. It ended up being a Q&A. And then that led into the Ignite. So I did really great at that working, I don't want to call it a working session, but that presentation that I gave, which we had a couple thousand people join, I think. So
Wow.
I did a great job there. And that translated into, them saying, hey, the audience loved you. Would you like to come back and speak for Ignite? And I said, sure, I love presenting. I love talking. And so that's kind of how that happened.
Awesome. Any other opportunities on the horizon, or is it something that you're always open to?
Something I'm always open to. No opportunities at the moment, but always open to. Oh, actually, I lied. I might be on a panel at Ohio University for their ITS Day, which they have annually. I think it's happening sometime in like April. And so I'll be on a panel and speaking about cybersecurity. So,
oh, cool. So do you keep in touch with them? Are they watching you? How did that come about?
yeah. So I did a couple podcast interviews with folks at Ohio University to share my experience. Because we're connected on LinkedIn. So my professors and my advisors, we are friends on LinkedIn, or we're connected in that way. And so when they saw that I was at Microsoft doing mixed reality, they had just opened up a mixed reality lab at OU. And so one of the professors reached out to me and said, hey, how's it going? See, you're in mixed reality. Would you mind being interviewed? And I said, of course not. Of course I'll interview. And then I actually had an interview 2 weeks ago with someone from Ohio University, more so for a blog. And so they wanted to do like a refresh. And then, so they kind of reach out to me, and I'm just always open to the opportunity.
Cool. So you're in a recently new role. What can you tell us about what you like the most and what you're looking forward to in the role that you have right now?
What I like the most right now are the people. Oh my gosh, do I have an amazing team.
Mhm.
They're so kind. Everyone's enthusiastic to help. They're very supportive of my learning and my growth. They're very patient and kind. And one of the best teams that you can ask for. I have an amazing, incredible manager. And literally, I kid you not, everyone that I've spoken to so far on this team, just genuinely amazing and kind people, which is so refreshing. And so I really love the people here. And I know it's only my third week, but that is just the sense that I get from everyone. Everyone's so kind. What I'm looking forward to is just learning so much, again, that hands-on experience in security. I have all this theoretical knowledge. I went and in March passed the CISSP exam, which is a high-ranking security exam. That's where the ISC squared associate title comes from. You need 5 years of experience in order to get the full credential and become a CISSP, which is a professional, security professional. I don't have that experience. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to have this hands-on experience and learn in the cybersecurity space. And because of the team dynamic and because my manager and everyone being so supportive, there's so many different security domains on this team. I have the freedom to kind of migrate and bounce around as I would like. So right now, my main role is privacy and security reviews, and then down the line, penetration testing. But if I find out that I really like identity management, for example, I could start helping the identity management team. Like there's a lot of opportunity to grow as well as to move around horizontally.
Wow, it sounds fun, exciting, and nice to know about that kind of culture, especially in the type of work that you do.
Yeah.
So I'm interested. You bring such a creative element into a technical world. Where do you see the world of cybersecurity going? And any insights that you can share on the path that you'd like to see, or that you might be pursuing, kind of long term, and where the world is going to kind of end up, if you will, or the direction it's going, because technology can be so fast and furious and change so rapidly. Security obviously is essential part of that. Any insights that you can share with the audience?
Yeah. The importance of cybersecurity is only going to grow. I know that right now cybersecurity experts are in demand, just like developers are in demand. There's not enough people to fill the roles. And so I would love to see more people getting into cybersecurity, and particularly more women as well and people of color, because that brings a different perspective and a different way of thinking about things. The what I'd like to see also in cybersecurity is that there's more of a I guess emphasis on it, that people are taking more time to educate themselves, and that's even everyday users, because it's a very scary place. There's so many different ways that attackers can cause harm, that it's super important to make sure that there's education programs in place to educate everyday users. I was having a conversation with one of my friends earlier this week. I had sent her a TikTok, and she doesn't have TikTok, and she was asking all of these questions about cybersecurity and about, is TikTok safe, and are applications safe, and what are your thoughts about this? And we're talking about like privacy, and mostly the privacy and security. And I was informing her, like, I understand the everyday user doesn't necessarily know how to secure their device. They don't necessarily know how cybersecurity works or how privacy works, how these applications interact on your phone, whether that's an iOS or Android. And we have all these permissions on our phones. You can accept, like, you want this app to like access your camera or to access this. And sometimes people just hit accept because they want to use the app. I would like to see more education that's consumable, that's easily to consume for everyday users. And I'm not really sure how to do that, right? That's a huge task. You have people of various backgrounds, various ages, various access to technology. So but it's something that's going to grow and become more and more important as we have more bad actors try to collect sensitive information and use it however they see fit. And so that's one area where I hope that we grow. And the other areas, I hope that we get more or stricter policies and laws in place to really protect the everyday user.
So important. So the three biggies I heard, and all biggies, more women and more, people of color, in these places, because it's only going to add the creativity and really what's essential to do service to the evolution of cybersecurity and the technology that everybody's using. I love the discussion on the education piece and the information, because as technology does grow, there's really a vast dynamic of opportunities, maybe even in education. So, being a developer and having some of these skill sets in cybersecurity is essential. We definitely need more people there, but also just to kind of help inform and educate the end user. Like you said, I'm a technical person, but I find myself in my older age, kind of not keeping up as fast. And what you're talking about with that education would definitely benefit me too. And we can all just kind of share in this amazing world of technology to enhance our own worlds. And then the last one, what was the last one? There was a third one.
Regulations and laws.
Yes. So I've been watching some things and getting informed myself. And I'm kind of, I'll just say, losing ground on my own idea of how important my data is. And on some level, we kind of need a little bit of help, from humankind, just to stay safe in a general sense. So I appreciate you bringing up all those things. The last thing, do you have an inspirational quote to share with the audience?
Yeah, so I will quote my great uncle Plina, very pivotal person in my life. When I was very young, he used to always tell me, never lose your curiosity. And so that is what I want to share with all of you. Never lose your curiosity. Curiosity is the key to learning. It is the key to continuous growth. And it's the key to understanding, because if you're not curious, why would you take the time out to learn anything? And so stay curious.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. That actually tends to be with a lot of women that I interview on the show, and I target, mostly, women in engineering. That seems to be one of the common ingredients for success is curiosity. Kind of makes things fun too, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure. If you're curious about something, you're excited about it. If you're curious enough, you're going to be excited to learn about it. And even if you decide, halfway through learning, like, I don't really like this, at least you still have gained some knowledge that you didn't have before.
Yeah, it kind of makes life fun, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Awesome. Payge, thank you so much for being on the show today and for helping us understand your journey and for educating us in a very important world of cybersecurity.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Coffee Time with Kauffman is the comfortable place to discuss women's leadership, because I am on a mission to help the world discover the truth about what women are capable of. When you are ready for your leadership mastery makeover, go to mariakauffman.com and click on Consult a Coach, where you can schedule time with me for an empowerment session. Have a great week. Enjoy your adventures and journey responsibly. Thanks again, Payge. You've been a great guest on the show.
Thank you.